Hello and very warm welcome to the Rise interview, 60 minutes of big questions about the big stories from the news and beyond with fresh insight and critical analysis. I am Christian Ogodo. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the next hour, an alleged fraud up to the tune of 40 billion naira in the Niger Delta Development Commission is making the rounds as the Interim Management Committee in that agency has been accused of squandering 40 billion naira within the space of 3 months. Now, a civil society organization is raising the alarm about an alleged attempt by the Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission to cover up the said fraud. What's the true situation of things? We'll speak to the head of research, strategy and programs for the group that played an active role in presenting evidence of fraud against the IMC at the National Assembly, which has necessitated a probe by the National Assembly. And later, Ramadan ends in a couple of days, and Nigeria and dozens of other African countries are stepping up efforts to enforce a ban on large gatherings in an attempt to contain the spread of the coronavirus disease. There is evidence of pushback from religious leaders, and mosques are reopening, and there are concerns about how social distancing will be maintained. So, what should be done in such circumstance? What does the end of the Ramadan signify? Would hopefully be speaking to an imam about how the Muslim community in Nigeria is coping with the pandemic. You may have heard already that the Interim Management Committee of the Niger Delta Development Commission has been accused of squandering the sum of 40 billion naira just in 3 months. The said committee was set up by President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to oversee a forensic audit of financial transactions of the NDDC. Now, it's been bedeviled or it's been bedeviled with financial misuse, misapplication, misappropriation of the Commission's funds. That's some allegations anyway. However, the Act for Positive Transformation Initiative has accused the Interim Management Committee Delta Development Commission of plotting to cover up the alleged fraud by writing a secret letter to the National Assembly requesting for virement few days to the end of its budget lifespan, which is expected to end on May 31st, 2020. Here is the Director of Corporate Affairs of NDDC debunking the claims.
There has been an issue that the IMC spent 200 billion naira in 3 months. Nothing could be further from the truth. In actual fact, in 3 months, the IMC has only received 33 billion naira, out of which they have spent 22 billion. Some of these monies went into paying vendors like hotels and others, and also meeting obligations to contractors ranging from 50 million and below. So it's out of place for people to vilify the Commission. At all times, you find things like this happen, and it's very unfair to the Niger Delta region. At a time like this, there's need for us to intervene in COVID-19 so as to help our people and assuage their sufferings.
Okay, that's the spokesman of the Niger Delta Development Commission debunking that allegation of 40 billion naira fraud. For more on this issue, I've now been joined by Kolawole Johnson, who is the head Directorate of Research, Strategy and Programs for the Act for Positive Transformation Initiative. And of course, by High Chief Sonny Chukwumele, the President's Global Initiative for Leadership Success and a Niger Delta Leader of Thought. Welcome, Sonny Chukwumele. Nice seeing you again, concerned Niger Delta citizen and leader. How concerned are you about this allegation of 40 billion naira?
Well, 40 billion is scary. It's a humongous amount. If it has to be, we have to hear such news coming from the wrong side. Fraud is not acceptable. But then, here, from what angle is this allegation coming? From a CSO I think there are civil society organizations.
Absolutely.
And they
yes,
play veritable roles as vanguard of society, you know, just like the media. The media cannot hear such things. That's why you called me. Cannot hear such an allegation, you know, that is very, very threatening. And then you sweep it under the carpet. So such kind developments must be interrogated. And that is why the organization is doing what I consider is the reason for which CSOs are established. Now, that is on one hand. On the other hand is the organization, NDDC, and the Niger Delta people. Now, we have heard the head of corporate communications of NDDC, the head of
of
NDDC,
the director of
the
corporate
director,
communications.
Director of corporate communications. What he has said is at variance with what
is being alleged.
What is being alleged, you know. And then the other issue of the NDDC applying for environment. Environment is an administrative financial instrument, legal, to take care of emergency situations or things like that. It is normal. Now, if they have gone to the National Assembly that appropriates for them, then NDDC is right. They are right. If they get the approval, then there is no problem. Even the 40 billion will no longer be a fraud. It will then become an official expenditure. But that is still a variance with what the Director of Corporate Communications have told us.
Yes, because what is on ground is that in 3 months, the Transformation Initiative organization, is saying that, look, they have documentary evidence to show that this money has been squandered. Okay, let's join Kolawole in our off-site studio. He is the Director of Research of that organization that is laying this accusation. Kolawole, can you expatiate on this allegation of such humongous amount of 40 billion naira?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to greet the High Chief in the other studios. It's unfortunate that I can't see his face. I wish we were together, but perhaps one of those disadvantages of COVID-19 in this era. Thank you, High Chief. I have listened to what you said, and I like the fact that you commended our effort. And you said it was the right thing to do for us to have also put some light in activities of NDDC. Thank you for that. I'd like to take my response from where you stopped before answering what he asked me from Lagos. You said going to the National Assembly was right. Well, let me just explain to you. Sorry, I sincerely enjoyed the tone of your engagement, and I want to be as simple as possible. It was wrong for them, number one, to have written directly to the National Assembly. It is illegal. They did not submit budget to the National Assembly. It was Mr. President that submitted budget to National Assembly, and if you want any variance, it is submitted through the same process. It is Mr. President that will submit, not them. So it is illegal. For us, we are not even expecting the National Assembly to attend to that. If they do, we will march there. Number two, they wrote a letter they marked secret to the National Assembly. If you're submitting an official document, you don't mark it secret if there is nothing fishy. Number three, when they wrote the letter to National Assembly, the content of that letter are extremely suspicious. Sorry, is extremely suspicious. Aside from the fact that you don't even write to to the chairman of committee, like we saw. You write to the leadership of the National Assembly, and they will then pass it to the committee to act on them. Now, there are issues here that we must look into. Why would you be sending a letter, a request for viament at the middle of an investigation? Chief, I have come to enjoy your few minutes intervention. Thank you. You said something also that that if they send for viament and the National Assembly approved, that the 40 billion issue will no longer be a fraud. Meaning that there is an acceptance that 40 billion was spent outside budgetary provision. So if you are now going through the back door to get some stamp of authority, of legality on what you have done illegally, that it will then confer on those expenses, of course, the legality that they want. If there was no illegality in the first instance, there would not be a need to probe. So if you say that the National Assembly should abandon the probe and stamp what they brought for them, so that the probe would no longer be needed after those ones have done the wrong thing, I don't understand the nexus. By and large, I'd like us to just address this very squarely. Thank God you come from the Niger Delta. You witness what the people are going through every single day. I'm very, very sure that you are aware that lately, the means of livelihood of our people have been taken away because the waters have been poisoned one way or the other, and fishes are dying. People can no longer fish. You're also aware that the income of any government agency cannot be the same for the next 2 years, especially this year. That we will have no fund to service a lot of our wants, even our needs. Now, if there is no fund to service most of our needs, it therefore follows that we should spend whatever we have now judiciously. Now, how do you explain, High Chief, that the National Assembly appropriated 800 million naira for contingency provision for regional road repairs? Aside from the fact that
Kolawole would ask you to, stop there for now, because we want to take some messages. When we return, you'll continue, on the path you're threading already. You're still watching the Arise interview. We've got plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Arise interview with me, Christian Ogodowo, live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The allegations against the Interim Management Committee of the NDDC has been described as baseless, posing a grave threat to the success of the mandate given to them by President Muhammadu Buhari. The Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has since denied the allegation of 40 billion naira fraud in the NDDC, an agency supervised by his ministry. But fresh allegations suggest that the NDDC is seeking for viament to cover up for the many extra budgetary spending and fraudulent contract awards that have brought the Commission to its knees in the last 6 months. Okay, we still have here in the studio Chief Sonny Chukwumele, who is a stalwart of the Niger Delta, and Kolawole Johnson. He's the Director of Research, Strategy and Programs for the Action for Positive Transformation Initiative, the accuser here, who has written to the National Assembly for an investigation. Kola, you were still expanding, not your thoughts here, but the evidence you think is before your organization that you've presented to the National Assembly over the 40 billion naira fraud. You want to continue?
First, I'd like to complete a thought on that. Then we go to the issue of that 40 billion naira. I was responding to the violence sent to the National Assembly. That first, it was illegal They didn't have the right to send any environment to the National Assembly directly. In fact, it shows that they are very incompetent. If they are competent, they won't send it because it is the president that has the power to send such to the National Assembly, not them. Number two, why send environment to the National Assembly at the middle of investigation to cover the same amount for which you have been probed for? Number three, or four rather, I explained to you that the content of that environment extremely suspicious. And some figures, we have put some figures in the public space, but this will shock you. The National Assembly appropriated 800 million for regional contingency provisions for road repairs. Contingency, not the main amount. Some provisions were made for specific road repairs, but contingency that should there be need to just do some things very quickly. And before coming, take 800 million naira. IMC, NDDC is said they sent environment of 25 billion to the National Assembly. From 800 million provided for you, you said you have spent 25 billion naira. For Christ's sake, how do you justify that? Which road have they repaired in the Niger Delta state in the past few months that amount to 25 billion naira? You and I can judge that. Thank God the document is before the National Assembly, and one reason we are shouting and crying, we know antecedent of first NDDC and even the National Assembly. This must not be swept under the carpet, because I'm of the opinion that before they will have the effrontery to send such secret documents to the National Assembly, there will be internal collaborators in the National Assembly. That is why we are shouting that what they are being probed for, there are attempts to cover it up. Number two, now in that environment letter, they wrote to National Assembly that the National Assembly only provided about 10 billion naira to pay for roads. Yes, but as we speak, that they have spent, or maybe spent, they said, 40 billion paying for roads, or that they have certified roads worth 40 billion naira to be paid for, inferring that the 40 billion we are looking for, they are trying to explain that they have spent it. Number three, are you aware that it is illegal for any agency of government to spend money non-appropriated for and be coming back to seek approval? That is wrong. You are supposed to get the approval before spending the money. But in this case, they have done extra budgetary spending. They have finished spending the money, and they are coming to National Assembly to just rubber stamp for them. On behalf of the Niger Delta people, this will be an injustice
let me come in now so that we can hear another view, because what the Director of Corporate Communications of the Niger Delta Development Commission said a short while ago in a video clip is that they only got 33 billion naira, out of which 22 billion is being expended, for projects in the Niger Delta. Chukwumele, you probably want to respond to this, that it is illegal for the commission to haven't spent money, now sent environments to the National Assembly. Kolawole thinks there are internal collaboration to this fraud. That is, some members of the National Assembly are involved.
Very certain I must commend Kolawole and his group, just like I commend the media for all the good works you've been doing. The CSOs and the media are always frontliners, in helping society, not to be shortchanged. But you see, these allegations are weighty, about collaborators. And of course, NDDC gets appropriation from National Assembly, so there's a relationship. There is a committee of NDDC in the National Assembly, both Senate and the House of Reps. So there's a relationship. So whatever it is, and the life is webbed around relationships. So very certain, I won't fault ACT for what they are doing, because they are either acting on in public interest, they're either acting
45,
on public interest, very certain, on public interest. So they must not wait until they get every fact, and because certainly there are people who have told them it is not, they have an onus because it's an organization, a civil society organization. They have an onus to do what they are doing.
So is it
but then
okay?
The National Assembly also reserves the right. It is not the president that is supposed to look at issues of environment. No, administratively, it is the agency, the organization, that will apply to their an oversighting,
ministry, which is the Ministry of the Niger Delta now.
Maybe through them to the National Assembly, or even the National Assembly that has oversight, that performs oversight function. It's
so the commission has not gone against the law here.
They haven't gone against the law because, one, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs is a lawyer. The Minister of Niger Delta Affairs was a governor. He had a legislature in the state that he governed. He also ended up as a senator, as a lawmaker. So I am sure that if he knows, even as much as he is superintending over NDDC, the issue of NDDC is today a national issue for which Mr. President is trying to clear that place of all the problems from 2000 to the year 2000 to present. And that is why he set up the Interim Management Committee. You remember I was here sometime last year. The Interim Management Committee is not an aberration, it is an instrument of government. Now the president has said, of course it wasn't even the president, it was the governors of the Niger Delta. If we follow the sequence, now the president has inaugurated the advisory council. That is a plus. We've not had advisory council in a very long while, if at all it had been. This presidency has put it. And the governors, in answer to requests by the governors. And so for me, I see NDDC, making progress. Of a truth, there is corruption in NDDC.
Yeah, the kind of progress you're talking is not in sync with the kind of expenditure Kolawole is alleging that they've expended on roads construction or rehabilitation in 3 months. 25 billion naira has been expended.
Well, I know.
Is there anywhere to see that?
I know that there's a civil society organization, one activist group in the Niger Delta that intervened when they went and they attempted to block the road at East-West Road to attract the attention of the Ministry of Niger Delta on that East-West Road. And thereafter, the repair jobs commenced on the East-West Road. The Niger Delta, particularly at this time that we're entering into rainy season, if those things were not done or are not being taken care of, I am sure that it is in that spirit. I am not holding brief for NDDC. Let me put it.
That would have, made them to have spent 25 billion naira.
Well, the cost of
on rehabilitation.
The cost of carrying out engineering projects, which is civil, in the area I come from, is not the same. Yes, it's not the same as this place. It's not the same. I do not know about certainly there are bills of engineering measurement, whatever. They don't just give you. Certainly, NDDC engineers or their consultants would have prepared engineering bills of measurement for those projects. I'm a contractor, and I know what I'm talking about. So I do not know as much as it looks humongous, 25 billion over the period. I said here earlier that it is the word against these vanguards, against, and as against the words of the NDDC. NDDC have said they have received 32 or 33 billion.
33 billion.
Well, out of which they have spent
22
billion.
Okay, let's leave it at that first. We'll still come back to interrogate this issue, but we're going to go on break. As you're watching the Arise interview, we'll still go more ahead. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Arise interview with me, Christian Ogodo. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I still have in our off-site studio, Kolawole Johnson is the Director of Research Strategy and Programs. And here with me in the studio is Chief Sonny Chukwumele, is a Niger Delta leader. Let's go back to the off-site studio. Kolawole, you've heard the response of Chief Sonny Chukwumele to say that, look, the NDDC, through the supervisory ministry, can send environment to the National Assembly to appropriate the so-called 40 billion. Only 33 billion, they said they've gotten, spent 22 on projects. One would now wonder that the governors of the Niger Delta are serve as, as an advisory committee. Are you accusing them as well of being part of this 40 billion naira fraud?
Okay. First, the governors who are members of the advisory committee does not run the day-to-day activities of NDDC. Number two, they just came in when they were inaugurated, not too long ago. Number three, the minister of Niger Delta is also part of that team. And he's the one supervising. How do you get justice in that? But let me just go to main issues. I'd like us to address main issues. Chief said in specific that they are right to have sent to the National Assembly. Can you please just get a lawyer, to just give the right view now? I'm telling you that under the law they cannot. But thank God that he cited the example of the minister of Niger Delta, who was a governor. Now, the minister as a governor of Akwa Ibom State, would he sit down and one agency under him will send requests for environment directly to the House of Assembly without coming through him? It is not possible. That is why you see that it is the governor that goes to present budget. It is also him that asks for any other thing he wants, environment or budget review. In this case, the commission, NDDC, cannot do that under the law. It is illegal. They were meant to go through the president. Whatever request is passed to the president, then the president passes him to the National Assembly leadership, not even committee, leadership. And the leadership would then pass to the committee in charge. That is the process. Now, if they hurriedly pass this to the committee, I am saying that we are suspecting foul play, number one. Number two, it shows they are also incompetent. If you are competent, you know the right procedure in this case. Number three, let's even go to the content of that environment. I just told you how 800 million naira was provided for contingency on regional road repairs. And they are asking for, and they are coming to the National Assembly for environment that they have spent 25 billion illegally on what 800 million naira was appropriated for, was given. Number two, are you aware that in that environment list that they said they have spent 5.5 billion naira, 5.5 billion on awareness campaign on communicable disease in the Niger Delta? How much have we spent as a country on awareness campaign? That NDDC will say they have spent 5.5 billion naira on awareness campaign on communicable diseases. Then inside that list, they said they have spent 7 billion naira training the Niger Delta youth on welding and electrical fittings. How come? They said they have also spent 3.4 billion naira on entrepreneurial development. They said they have spent 455 million naira for staff welfare. And when National Assembly only gave them 15 million naira, 15 million to 455, 800 million to 25 billion. They said they have spent 13 billion naira on the headquarters. How do you justify these expenses with this short period? My brother, they said they have received 33 billion. Yes, they got $100 million from their account. That was the 33 billion. But there was money in that account before. Sorry. There was money in the naira account before of the agency, of the commission. That was over 20 billion naira. So if you have 20 billion on ground, you collected additional 33 billion, and you have said you have spent 22 billion out of that 33 billion, so 22 billion plus the 20 billion on ground, that is 42 billion. Can you now put facts together to see where the 40 billion naira fraud is coming from now? Now, if you say you have only spent 22 billion, why are you asking for environment for this humongous figure? 7 billion naira on training of youth on welding and electrical fittings. 25 billion naira on contingency road. How many days? Where are those roads? 3.4 billion naira on entrepreneurial development. 5.5 billion on awareness campaign on communicable diseases. For Christ's sake, let us fear God now. They are not stealing money. They are stealing the blood of the people. You need to know what people are going through in the Niger Delta, my brother. You need to see, please be in touch. Go there with your camera. Go and capture what people are going through. These guys are giving their life for Nigeria. The fact that we have some comfort today is because of the oil of the Niger Delta. After the Civil War, oil has grown from that little part of our national income to the mainstay. Each time the oil price drops, we are in recession. That is our mainstay. And the people who have given their land, their life for us, are suffering. And you think the best thing we can do is to open our eyes and allow the money filter away just like that. I think, just like Chief has said, I want him to please join us so that we can together fight corruption there. Not any individual. I'm not interested in any individual. Let the money they have taken be returned back to the post, so that post-COVID-19, the people can have what to fall back on. We can have money to at least repair some roads. We can have money to develop the manpower of that place, to put businesses online again for the people. Things may really get bad post-COVID-19. We must be prepared for that. And the reason we are shouting now is the fact that this money were freshly stolen. We should ensure that those who took the money are apprehended and the money is returned back to the post for the people. Very simple. And you can imagine, if I'm saying that I don't want them to collude, I don't want any collaboration between the National Assembly and these people. It is because we are after the money, not after some noise. Anybody can make noise. It is normal. But we are after the fact that this money must be returned to the people. We can't continue like this.
All right, Kolawole, yes, indeed, we sure cannot continue like this. There must be accountability. But let me just say to viewers here that Arise News on several occasions reached out to the head of the Interim Management Committee, that is the Group Managing Director of the NDDC, but at the 11th hour, they changed their minds from appearing on this program, at least to put up a defense on these allegations. Okay, let's quickly turn to Sunny here. Sunny, the submissions are very damning. In that environment and the rest, if you can, just quickly in 2 minutes, you want to look at the issue of corruption in the NDDC and what this CSO has brought, the Act for Positive Transformation Initiative.
One, I will continue to commend ACT, the group, as I also commend other CSOs in the Niger Delta. I commend PANDEV. Now, the issue here is that, Mr. President, his actions are intended to take care of these whole problems. The politicians, the political class that come to NDDC corrupt the civil servants. Consequently, the civil servants, the public servants in NDDC, some of them become terrible bad eggs. It happened to me that even a job that I was given, like an emergency job to intervene on a school in the Niger Delta, 2 officials sat on it. This job was in the 2013 budget. Up until today, nothing has happened. And they swore that nothing will happen. That is the kind of impunity. You understand? But now, I am very, very hopeful that what the president is doing in tandem with the governors will yield results. At the end of this of course, coincidentally, the president has extended the stay of IMC to December. After December, I am sure that the consultants who are, it's not the IMC that are the auditing firms. This, I think the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs published,
advertised for consultants.
Yeah,
so
I am sure it is the consultants that are working on the forensic audit. At the end of the day, I'm sure that certainly there must be, international auditing firms, firms of high repute. So at the end of the day, we're going to get results.
A clean sheet, a clean bill of
and
health
now
for the NDDC.
The board will now
come in thereafter
and
start on a new slate.
Start on a new slate.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chief Sonny Chukwumele, let's go back to the offsite studio. Kolawole, we'll have barely 2 minutes to the end of this segment. So what are your thoughts? Where is the Act for Positive Transformation Initiative going to do next with this allegation and the petition you've sent to the National Assembly?
First, thank you for inviting us here. This sure means a whole lot to us. First, we raised allegations, we wrote petitions, the National Assembly took it up. Then we also monitor to the point that we are suspecting underhand dealings, that they got secret letter, and they didn't make it public that they got letter. And now we are even bringing out the content. I've mentioned some figures for you, that those things are scary. Let me read 2 things to you very quickly. Do you imagine in that list that the IMC said they have spent 250 million naira on economic summit when only 30 million was provided for it? Where did they hold that economic summit? They claim they have spent another 200 million naira on sustainable development forum when only 45 million was provided for that. Where exactly did they hold that? Then another 75 million naira on peace summit. Where exactly did that happen? Then they claim they have spent 300 million naira on proposal for regional security.
All right, Kolawole, I would have allowed you to go on and go on and go on, but we have another segment to look at the end of Ramadan. Kolawole Johnson is the Director of Research Strategy and Programs of Act for Positive Transformation Initiative. Thanks so very much for shedding light on the alleged 40 billion naira fraud in the NDDC. And Chief Sonny Chukwumele, thanks also for coming on the Arise interview.
Thanks for having me.